So what is KDD? KDD is by definition a process that identifies valid, novel, potentially useful, and ultimately understandable patterns. Well, I think the remarks are quite trivial, because non-trivial is, of course, it's not just the obvious things. Valid in a sense, in a statistical sense, novel at least to the system, and preferable also to the user. So you want to find something which is really unique to you, or novel to you, potentially useful for a given application, of course, and ultimately you want to understand that. That's a hard part sometimes, because usually you have to explain that to people that have no clue about computer science and how you can derive patterns. So it's a process. So you already know from KDD1 that it involves a lot of steps, especially pre-processing steps, cleaning, transformation, where you, in this case, more or less, that's the typical data warehouse LTE processes. ETL, I'm sorry, LTE. ETL processes, extract, transform, load. Everything is loaded into a data warehouse from different sources. Data is cleaned, data is transformed, so that you have hopefully task relevant data, and then you can do the traditional reporting stuff, visualizations like dashboards and reports and visual data mining, and you can do the magic machine learning stuff where you apply some magic method from machine learning to give some more advanced patterns, and then you tell it to the people. So very important, the process may have back loops, a lot of back loops. You may be here in your process and find out that, oh, you're missing a very important data source, so you have to go back maybe to the first step and so on. There may be many very similar variants like CRISP-DM that actually models the same process, more or less the same, but in a different visualization. And that is maybe the most important point here, that the pre-processing steps, these two pre-processing steps here, they typically take 85% of the time or resources, or even much more. So sometimes 95%. And you do a lot of things. We will come to the point what you're doing just right in a minute on the next couple of slides. But here, the boring stuff and the not really satisfying stuff is done here, and really time consuming. So you write parsers, you write SQL scripts, and the same here. So if you do something wrong here, you get shit at that point. And you know the saying shit in, shit out, that's of course what's happening here. If this one is shit, any magic, there's no magic that turns shit into gold. So those steps here are very time consuming, very boring, sometimes extremely frustrating. But they are extremely important. So as data scientists, you should always try to involve yourself, at least as a supervisor, in those steps here. And sometimes you just have to do it by yourself. So what specific tasks? Well, during the first step here, cleaning and integration, identify and select the relevant data sources, integrate the data, so write a lot of SQL scripts, increase data quality, like try to identify noise. Identification of missing values is mostly very easy, but how to deal with it? Very hard question, very application specific. Inconsistencies, how to detect them and how to erase them. So all those things here are extremely application specific and hard to standardize. That's another bad message here. And then the second step of transformation, here you have to select useful features and objects, maybe derive new features, maybe do a feature transformation, or a discretization, maybe a dimensionality reduction because you have too many features and stuff like that. So all what you're doing here have, of course, a huge impact on what you get here as your input of your data mining. So keep that in mind, because as I said before, it's important, but it's very boring typically. So that was actually the buzzword bingo, and the next podcast, or the next couple of podcasts actually, will recap KDD1. So stay tuned.